Namaste. Uh, Often this question is asked that everybody says going within, going within. How do we go within? First thing is what goes with it. So, what goes within is consciousness. So, according to yoga, consciousness exists independent of all phenomena. All phenomena is in fact an act of consciousness. The scientific theory of consciousness, or rather in science, at one point I had read all these possible papers in 90s. So 50% say that consciousness is an epiphenomena of matter, and 50% say that no, consciousness exists independently. Leaving aside the debate for those who want to debate, but there is a third position. Consciousness is not just independent of matter. Consciousness is the cause of matter. It creates, its creative power. So, it is this consciousness which builds instrument for its expression, then limits itself to whatever it builds, like conditions itself. Let's say a person who is, there's a little story about it. That there was a man who had so-called renounced the world, and he was very happy living like a wandering monk. Or then one day he leaves his what is true renunciation. That's what. So he had taken out his langoti. What is the English word for it? Loincloth, and put it in water. He would do it, and then keep it on, take a bath, come back, and then wear it. Or he probably had two pairs. I don't know. So as things would have it that day, rat, while he was taking a bath, rat came and chiseled the loincloth. Now he's in a difficult situation. He couldn't renounce his shame, incidentally. Shame is one of the bondages. So, all these in Indian thought, you will ask bondages, shame, guilt, fear, these are bondages. So, he says, what is the solution? He says, let me get a cat. So cat will chase away the rats. Short story, it's not like a true tale. So he got a cat. Then cat needs milk, so cow. Cow needs to eat something, then little farm. And then who will manage the farm while this man is meditating? So get married. So then what happened? This man who was living in his vast freedom has conditioned himself. This is an example. The Kathopanishad gives several examples. Agniryatheko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo pahuva. As fire enters into source of light enters into a little mantle and conditions itself to it. Vayuryatheko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo pahuva. And then it says, Eko vashi sarva bhutantaratma rupam rupam pratirupo bhahischa. That within and out, that in same way, in everyone there is the one soul, and it inhabits a form and conditions itself to the form, to the conscious, to whatever is the instrumental capacity. And take an example that a person may be very brilliant inside, and yet if he doesn't have the apparatus of speech, can he really convey? He cannot convey. So he is conditioned by the instrument. This is the play. So consciousness is involved in the form. What to do with it? How it is involved and tied to this world, because the flow of consciousness is from above outward and from within outward. That is the way everything blossoms. So the Upanishad puts it in a different way. It says, through the gates, 9 are the gates through which consciousness flows outside. And there is only one through which it goes upward and within. So what are the gates? So you have 2 eyes, 2 ears, nostrils, mouth, anus, and the organ of regeneration and urination. These are the gates. So what does it mean actually? What ties us, this consciousness? All these impacts all the time. Every sight we see has an impact within us. And then it not only has an impact, then the mind keeps playing it. Now we talk about mirror neurons today. You see people talk, and nowadays, unfortunately, you have Google Photos. They'll remind you, they'll make sure that you don't forget. That's why in general I don't like to take photos of mine anywhere and never put it on, because they'll keep you tied forever. So sight, all that we are seeing, okay, all that we are hearing, all that we, through speech we bind ourselves, all that we are smelling, all that we are tasting, all the touch, sparsh. So through all these organs, consciousness is rushing outside. Even through the organs of utsarjan, it is rushing outside, excretion and reproduction, it's rushing outside. So what is to be done? The Gita gives a simile as a tortoise withdraws itself in the cell. So one way is that you try to shut all these, and then the consciousness, if you habituate it to concentrating inside, then after some point it will learn to stay inside. Otherwise it will rush. So in certain traditional yoga, you close the eyes, close the ear, literally. And there are paths like that. But it's a little difficult, and that's not the way that a yogin living in the world should do. But deep within, you can practice inner detachment. Meaning thereby all these things that are happening outside, they are constantly pulling you outward. Why are we pulled outward? Because we are still attached to these things. Take an example, it's not sight that binds us, but attachment. So we go one step deeper. You are going on the road, you see so many people, it doesn't affect you. Suddenly you see somebody whom you know. See, suddenly there is a smile. Oh, so nice to. I'm not saying you should not greet someone, but you can still remain in an inward poise. Greet, but remain within. This is the practice that one has to do. So when Sri Aurobindo says, live within, be not shaken by outer circumstances, it means to practice this inner concentration. Now, what is that one gate the Upanishad speaks of beyond the head? But we know that another Upanishad, or most of the Upanishads, speak of within the heart. And the mother and Sri Aurobindo speak of within the heart. So to remain concentrated in the heart, Navjotji once spoke very beautifully. He says, speak from the heart, eat from the heart, walk from the heart. I mean, this is where the consciousness should be. Now, from the heart doesn't mean superficial heart. Whatever I feel like, I speak. It means to remain concentrated here on the divine presence which is here. And then to speak, to do everything, including movements which are purely mechanical. Sri Aurobindo goes on to say that. Even excretion and urination. And you will see, this is a very typical example. Somebody had once told me, and over a period of time I started observing it. When Champaklalji would go for passing urine. So, if mother's music is being played, he just could not. The whole movement of consciousness was upward. And then I saw it's so true. It's so difficult because your consciousness has to move through that realm. It is not just moving. When it is upward, mother's music is pulling it upward. I'm not saying it will happen with everybody, but those who are attuned. So that's why we have to practice, give this time for the practice. Initially, it will need setting aside some time when we withdraw consciousness from all these surface contacts and turn it inside, focus on the heart center. It will be difficult because it's tied like that. As I said, whatever we are seeing whole day, that's what the mind will play. It's like a recorder. So even while we are, that complementary practices, even while we are going through life, practice inner detachment, which is what Nishkam Karma is all about. You're doing your works, but not with the idea of I'll get a reward, somebody will pat me, I'll get this benefit, that advantage. The moment we do that, we get bound. But if we do the actions, what has to be done without this expectation of a reward or seeking or hankering for desires, if we go still further, you will see behind attachment are desires. And if we go still behind desires, it's ignorance. So the more we withdraw this consciousness, stay focused in the heart, then go through life. Then after some time, it doesn't matter. One is seeing someone, hearing someone, still one can remain inside in the heart. That is the practice of going within. But they are complementary. Because we can't continue leading life just as we are, driven by the senses, and yet imagine that we can go within, it won't happen. The things of the senses have to stop engaging us, basically. Things of the senses have to stop engaging us. It's a difficult thing, but we are here to do difficult things. Yoga is a difficult thing. Nobody ever said it's easy. So one is just be with life as it is. But if one wants to take up yoga, this is how. So it means many things. Like many times we are reacting to situation, people. Somebody says something and we react. All this has to cease. So the mother says, one practice she gives is step back. Before you act, just see how much it is going to really help you in your goal. So stay focused on the goal. This is one practice she says. All the time to remember. If not all the time, at least by and large, one should know how is it going to take me closer to my goal. Another way, which was keep offering everything to the divine. So that way you are connecting your outer life with the inner divine. So these are all practices meant to help us go within. When we go within, initially nothing happens. After some time, nothing happens. After some more time, nothing happens. If you endure, one day something will happen. And that something is irreversible. When that will happen, nobody can fix a time. There's nothing like 1 month, 2 months. To Sri Krishna, it happened in a moment. Just he heard 3 words and everything was torn. Sri Aurobindo, in 3 days he arrived at Nirvana. Buddha, 6 years of struggle. Somebody else, maybe long. But once we are determined that this is what we want, that's why the goal is so important. Sri Ramakrishna said in 3 days you can realize God. And mother said this is so true. And then mother added something. She says 3 days not of like you are withdrawing and leading an intense life. 3 days when you are in the midst of ordinary life, you can realize the divine. Sri Aurobindo is a living example of that. But it means basically the sum and substance of all this is stay focused on the goal. Nothing else should matter. Then automatically consciousness will be withdrawn. Automatically these things will stop interesting us. We have to do nothing. It's not even that we are trying to renounce. Renunciation is a big word. We don't have to. It doesn't interest you. Go through a market. Do you enter a shop which you are not interested in buying a product? You are not interested. You may go with a friend and you may come out without ever entering a shop. Why? Because you are not interested in the shop. So similarly, just as you have walked with a friend, yet not gone inside the shop. Why? Because the friend was important. Make divine your friend. Be with the divine. One last example of this is what Sri Ramakrishna gave. He gave this example of concentration. He said, have you ever watched Indian women carrying pots? Now we don't see them, but other day Sri Aurobindo was comment, why Indian women look so shapely and beautiful. Their gait is so beautiful, about the gait. And mother said that Sri Aurobindo would say it's because in India, old time, they were used to carry pots on the head. I have seen it. It's something very interesting to carry pots on the head. In Rajasthan, again, you'll see where you have to fetch water from the well. Later on, of course, all this has changed, which is okay. Not that one should carry pots on the head to become beautiful. That's not the idea, but it's an observation. So, Sri Ramakrishna gives that example. He says, have you seen women carrying pots on the head? They are carrying the pot on the head and a child in the arm. Okay, little child. And they are chatting with each other. But the attention of the woman is so concentrated that nothing will fall down from what she is carrying on top. Something amazing. She is managing a child who is often unruly and she is chit-chatting. But she is carrying the pot. So beautifully she is carrying. So basically it happens when we are clear about what we really want in life. Going inwards is possible. It cannot be a pastime. It's not like, okay, let's try going inwards. No. If the goal is such that it occupies us and grosses us, then nobody has to teach any technique. We will go within. Because we'll be desperate, looking for where is he. We'll do everything. Haath pav marna. To find where is he. And that's the basic essence of the practice.